Pull a frozen burger out of the freezer tonight and read the front of the box. It says beef. It shows a thick, charred, hand-pressed patty with grill marks and a little curl of smoke coming off it. Now turn the box over. Somewhere in that ingredient list, usually about a third of the way down, in the small print, you find the words the front was designed to keep you from reading. Soy protein concentrate, sodium phosphate, beef hearts, caramel color, dextrose. That is not a burger. That's a formula, engineered to look like one. And if you have ever grilled one of these, watched it shrink to the size of a hockey puck, and left a cloudy gray puddle behind in the pan, you didn't do anything wrong. You cooked it exactly right. The patty was built to do that. It was engineered to hold water until the heat lets it go, and you paid beef prices for the water. Here is the number that should stop you at the freezer door. Americans spend billions of dollars a year reaching for real beef in that aisle, and a large share of what they carry home is water, filler, and marketing. The front of the box is a painting. The back of the box is a police report, and the most damning part isn't that any of this is illegal, it's that the law was written to let them do it. The order of this list tells a story, so watch it. The more comforting the word on the front, classic, chop house, steak, value, the more the back of the box has to cover for it. The brand you'd bet money is fine is sitting closer to the bottom than you'd like. And at the very end, 3 brands that put exactly one thing in the box. Number 6 is where it starts. But before the countdown, one distinction the industry would rather you never learn, because once you see it, you can read any burger box in about 4 seconds. Under USDA rules, and the exact citation is 9 CFR, section 319.15, you can look it up. There are 3 legal names for what you think of as a burger. And they are not the same product. Ground beef must be 100% beef, no added water, no phosphates, no binders, no extenders, just beef and the fat that was already in the cut. Hamburger is almost the same. It can have extra beef fat added, but still no water, no soy, no fillers. And then there is a third name. Beef patties. That one-word swap is the whole magic trick. Under those same rules, a product labeled beef patties is legally allowed to contain binders, extenders, mechanically separated meat, partially defatted beef fatty tissue, and added water. Same picture on the front, a completely different thing inside. So watch the front of the box. If it says ground beef, the law is standing on your side. If it just says beef patties, the law just quietly stepped out of the room. Now follow the money, because that's what this really is. To make an honest all-beef patty from ground chuck, a company pays roughly $4 to $5 a pound at wholesale. Textured soy protein costs under $1 a pound. Water is free, and sodium phosphate, a salt that forces the meat to grip the injected water so the patty tips the scale heavier, costs pennies. Take cheap beef trim, bulk it up with soy, inject water, lock the water in with phosphate, dye it with caramel color so it doesn't look gray spray on some grill flavor, and stamp the word beef on the front. You pay for the weight. Most of that weight is water. That is not a shortcut. It's a business model. And 6 brands have built entire product lines on top of it. Number 6. Holton's Chop House Smash Burgers. The word doing the work here is chop house. It promises a steakhouse in your kitchen, and it rides the whole smash burger trend. The thin, crispy-edged patty everybody wants right now. Flip it over, though, and the format is the problem, not the marketing. Here's the mechanism, because it matters. A real smash burger works because you press fresh, loose beef onto a screaming hot surface, and the moisture on the surface flashes off in seconds so the meat can crust and brown. A patty that was frozen with water already locked inside it cannot do that. The water has to leave first. So instead of crusting, it steams, it slumps, it falls apart. Testers described it as juicy in the worst possible way, a thin, slimy disc that no amount of seasoning could rescue. And that's the quiet contradiction the box never mentions. A smash burger is defined by being fresh, thin, and slammed onto heat the moment it's formed. Freezing it first breaks the one rule that makes it a smash burger at all. You're paying for the name of a technique the frozen format physically cannot perform. This is the lowest stakes offender on the whole list. Nobody's hiding organ meat in it. The patty just can't survive its own format. But it sets the pattern, so keep it in mind, because the next brand leans on a word even heavier than Chop House. It leans on heritage. Number 5. Kansas City Steak Company Classic Steak Burgers. This one feels premium the second you pick it up. A heritage name from a steak city. Each patty individually vacuum sealed, and a seasoning packet tucked right in the box. It reads like a company that cares. But the beef comes from corn-fed commodity cattle, which tends to run drier and flatter in flavor than the name is quietly promising you. And that seasoning packet, the thing that's supposed to feel premium, is actually the tell. Think about what a seasoning packet admits. When a steak burger needs a rescue kit taped to the outside of the box, the company is telling you, in the packaging itself, that the patty can't stand on its own. A good burger seasons with salt. This one ships with instructions. And notice the trick sitting in the name itself. Kansas City Steak Company. There is no steak in a burger. The word steak is borrowed from a better, more expensive product to lend this one a quality it never earned the same way Chop House borrowed a whole restaurant one spot ago. Adequate at best, forgettable at worst, and priced on the name of a city instead of on what's actually in the patty. That's a marketing fee, not a quality one. The next brand doesn't sell you a city, it sells you a premium bloodline, and it curls up in the pan like an old shoe. Number 4. Marketside Original. This is Walmart's in-house premium line. Angus beef, 1/3 of a pound. Priced a step above the plain patties, positioned as the upgrade. And on the pan, it curls aggressively, needs constant flipping, and comes off with a gamey, stale, overworked chew. Multiple testers reported they couldn't finish the patty even after dressing it with cheese and pickles to hide the flavor. And the curl tells you why. A patty curls when the outer ring shrinks faster than the middle, and that happens when the meat was over-processed, when the muscle fibers were mashed and reset so they contract hard and unevenly under heat. Real, coarsely ground beef stays flat in the pan. A patty that curls into a little bowl is showing you, in real time, how hard it was worked before it was frozen. This is the first real betrayal on the list, because you paid extra for the word Angus and got worse eating than some of the cheaper patties still to come. And here's a free tip. Angus is a cattle breed, not a quality grade. It's a word anyone is allowed to print. Hold that thought, because next up is a box with the friendliest word in the entire freezer aisle, stamped on the front, hiding the one ingredient most people would put back if they read it out loud. Number 3. Flanders Classic Beef Patties. Classic beef. It's the most reassuring word they could have chosen. It sounds like your grandfather's cookout. Now flip it over. The third ingredient listed is beef hearts. Not a trace, not a footnote. Third on the list. And by law, ingredients are listed in order of weight, so third means beef hearts are one of the largest things in that patty. After that comes soy flour, then dextrose, which is sugar, then an aggressive cocktail of seasoning. And every piece of that is there for a reason. Organ meat has a dense, livery quality that most people would reject on sight if it were printed on the front, so it isn't printed on the front. It's buried under a wall of seasoning built to cover it, which is exactly why testers said it ate more like a seafood cake than a beef patty crumbling apart and leaving a strange coating on the fork. The sugar does the same job. Dextrose helps it brown and masks the off flavor. There is no reason to put sugar in a burger, except to hide what the burger tastes like without it. The word classic is doing an enormous amount of work to keep your eyes off ingredient number 3. And that's the pattern tightening. The more wholesome the front, the more buried the back. If this is already changing how that aisle looks to you, a quick like genuinely helps this reach more people standing at the same freezer door. Because number 2 isn't a fancy name at all. It's the name over the door of the store you shop at every single week. Number 2, Kroger ground beef patties. This is the house brand. Millions of families drop it in the cart on pure trust. It's the store's own name, so how bad could it be? And here is the surprise of the whole list. Read the box, and Kroger's actually says ground beef patties, which by the law we just covered, means it should be one ingredient. Beef. On the label, Kroger is more honest than half the brands above it. The betrayal here isn't fillers. It's what the freezer does to it, and what you're paying for it. Shoppers consistently report freezer burn, flat cooking, and no flavor. That's the taste of beef that was ground, pressed, frozen, and then stored so long the surface dried out and oxidized before it ever reached your pan. And now the money part. You are standing in a store that sells fresh ground beef at the meat counter, roughly 15 feet away, for about the same price per pound. Beef you can see. Beef that hasn't spent months frozen. You paid a convenience premium to get a worse version of a product that's on sale in the same building. So number 2 doesn't lie to you on the label. It just quietly counts on you not walking 15 feet. That's almost honest. Number 1 is not almost honest. Number 1 takes everything wrong with this entire list and puts it into one box, and it's probably in more American freezers than anything else we've named. Number 1. Extra value beef patties. The name is almost a confession. Extra value. It's the cheapest quarter pounder in the aisle, sold by the giant box, and it's in more freezers than anything premium precisely because it is cheap and it is everywhere. Here's the whole board. In one label. Beef is listed first. Good. Then, right behind it, beef hearts. Then water. Then textured vegetable protein, which is soy, and on many boxes the soy shows up twice, once as soy flour and again as soy protein concentrate. Then a seasoning blend carrying added sugar and 2 flavor enhancers, disodium inosinate and disodium guanylate, which live in the same family as MSG. And every single one of those is there for one job, to make the cheapest possible thing taste like beef. Beef hearts and trim for the cost. Soy and water to bulk up the weight. Phosphate to hold the water in place. Sugar and the MSG family enhancers to fake the savory hit that the real beef underneath is too weak to deliver on its own. A quarter-pound patty here carries around half of your entire day's saturated fat and roughly 380 milligrams of sodium, before the bun, before the cheese, before a drop of ketchup. And that sodium number is only the part they print in big type. The phosphate doing the water holding carries its own quiet cost. Inorganic phosphate added to processed food gets absorbed by your body far more completely than the phosphorus that occurs naturally in whole foods, and research published in the journal Deutsches Ärzteblatt International has linked a high intake of these additives to vascular damage, the stiffening and calcifying of blood vessels. The science there is still developing, and one patty won't hurt you. But it's worth knowing that the salt they're using to inflate the weight isn't inert. It's doing something in there, and it isn't nutrition, and the price tells the truth, the front never will. At the low end, this works out to around 40 cents a patty. You cannot raise, feed, slaughter, grind, form, freeze, and ship an honest beef patty for 40 cents. What you can produce for 40 cents is exactly what's printed on that label. Cheap trim, organ meat, soy, tap water, and flavor chemistry pressed into a disc. The front says, extra value. The back says you're the one adding the value, in water weight you paid beef prices for. Nowhere on this list is the gap between the painting on the front and the police report on the back wider than right here. Pause the countdown for a second, because none of this is a string of accidents. It's one system. Go back to that legal name, beef patties. The reason 6 different companies all reach for the same tricks is that the rule book rewards it. The moment a product is labeled beef patties instead of ground beef, the door opens to water, soy, phosphate, and mechanically separated meat, and the company that uses them can undercut the company that doesn't, on the same shelf, under a nearly identical picture. Honesty costs $4 to $5 a pound. The loophole costs under $1. On a national scale, that difference isn't a temptation, it's gravity. And take that phrase most people skate right past, mechanically separated meat. That's what you get when the last scraps of muscle clinging to a carcass are forced through a sieve under high pressure until they come out as a paste and then blended back into the mix. It's legal, it's cheap, and on a beef patties label, it does its work under 3 tidy words. The trim at the very bottom of this supply chain comes from the cheapest cattle available on any given day, commodity animals raised in crowded feedlots. The FDA permits 6 different growth hormones in American beef cattle, including synthetics like trenbolone acetate and zeranol, approved decades ago to push weight gain and cut costs. Whether that worries you or not, it's one more thing the single word beef on the front is quietly standing in for. And it got quietly worse. In December of 2018, the USDA reclassified something the industry calls lean, finely textured beef, the material the news once nicknamed pink slime. It's made by spinning beef trimmings in a centrifuge, then washing the resulting paste with ammonium hydroxide to kill off bacteria. For years, it had to be disclosed separately on the label. As of that ruling, it can be folded into the plain words, ground beef, with no separate mention at all. The system didn't get more honest. The label just got quieter, and here is the math that needs no accusation. Real ground chuck runs $4 to $5 a pound. A box of these patties can sell for 40 cents a patty, and the company still turns a profit. Those two numbers cannot both be describing the same beef. You don't need anyone to confess, the price already did. One more thing, because you've probably seen it. There's a viral kitchen test going around. Soak the raw patty in a glass of water, and if the water turns cloudy and red, it's supposedly full of fillers. Ignore it. That red is myoglobin, a protein in perfectly normal beef, and clean, single-ingredient patties fail that test all the time. It looks dramatic, and it proves nothing. The real tell isn't in a glass of cold water. It's in the pan, and the 3 tests that actually work are coming in 1 minute. But first, the part that makes all of this worth knowing, because you do not have to give up the freezer aisle. You just have to buy from the brands that put one thing in the box and watch the pattern flip. The winners are not the ones with the fanciest word on the front. They're the ones with the shortest ingredient list on the back. The first that passed. Bubba Burger. Founded in 1995 on one stubborn idea: build a frozen burger from real beef and not one thing more. The original Bubba Burger carries a single ingredient, USDA choice beef chuck. No soy, no water injection, no phosphate, no binders. Each 1/3 pound patty is 25 grams of protein and 0 carbs, and that lumpy, irregular shape you might have thought was a defect is actually the point. It's shaped like a hand-formed patty, so it cooks more evenly than a machine-pressed disc. At around $2 a patty, it competes on price with the water and soy brands while doing the one thing they refuse to. And for the record, because we check the winners too, Bubba is owned by a private company called Hickory Foods. Worth knowing. But it doesn't change what's in the box. And what's in the box is beef. The second that passed, Omaha Steaks. In the beef business since 1917, still run by the same family 5 generations later. They took an outside investment in 2023, but the family kept control. Their patties are 100% ground beef, naturally aged, then double ground for texture. That double grind is why reviewers keep repeating 2 things. These don't shrink, and they taste like beef. And when a patty holds its size in the pan, that's the physical proof it wasn't pumped full of water to begin with. They cost a little more. You're paying for beef instead of paying for weight. The third that passed. Trader Joe's grass-fed Angus beef burgers. The ingredient list is 1 item long. Grass-fed Angus beef. No added hormones, no antibiotics, no fillers, no binders. Around $2.25 a patty, sourced from pasture-raised cattle in New Zealand, where grass-fed isn't the premium, it's just the default. One honesty note, because we vet the winners the same way we vet the losers. Trader Joe's is quietly owned by Aldi Nord, the German discount chain. That surprises people. But again, the label is one ingredient, and the label is the only thing we're grading. It needs your own salt, and that's a feature, not a flaw. A company that isn't hiding anything doesn't need a wall of seasoning to hide it. Before the tests, 3 quick myths this aisle runs on, because they're the reason the tricks keep working. Myth 1. Angus means premium. Angus is a cattle breed, not a quality grade. A patty can say Angus and still be low-grade trim that happened to come from an Angus animal. The word tells you the cow's family tree, not how good the meat on your plate is. Myth 2. 100% beef on the front means no additives. Read that claim carefully, because it's usually about the meat portion only. The added water, the starch, the corn-derived sugars, and the phosphate get counted as separate ingredients, so a box can shout 100% beef in big letters and still list a dozen other things in small ones underneath. The claim is technically true, and the burger is still a processed product. Myth 3. Flame-grilled or fully cooked frozen patties are basically the same as grilling. A lot of these come pre-cooked, engineered to be microwaved, or warmed through in a skillet. You aren't grilling beef over fire. You're warming up a disc that was cooked and chemically stabilized in a plant weeks ago. The grill marks were printed on. They weren't earned over your flame. So here are the 3 tests, 30 seconds each, so you never have to take anyone's word for it again. Test 1. The 1-ingredient rule. Turn the box over before you ever put it in the cart. A real beef burger has 1 word in the ingredient list. Beef. Maybe salt. If you see soy protein, textured vegetable protein, sodium phosphate, modified food starch, caramel color, or the phrase natural flavors, put it back on the shelf and glance at the product name while you're there. Ground beef is protected by law. Beef patties is the word that opens the door. Test 2. The shrink test for the burgers already in your freezer. Cook 2 brands side by side, same pan, same heat. The one that shrinks dramatically is the one that was mostly water and filler. Real beef holds most of its size. A filler patty can lose up to 40% of its volume, and you get to watch your dinner evaporate. Test 3. The grease test. Look at what comes off the patty in the pan. Real beef renders clear, clean fat. A patty full of water and soy leaves a cloudy, milky gray runoff. If your pan looks murky, you already have your answer. No single one of these is a lab result on its own. But stack all three, and the box cannot lie to you anymore. So here is what you can read now that you couldn't 20 minutes ago. You know that ground beef and beef patties are two different legal products, and that the second name is where the water gets in. You know that sodium phosphate isn't a flavor, it's a clamp that makes you pay beef prices for tap water. You know that mechanically separated meat and beef hearts can sit near the top of an ingredient list, hidden under a friendly word like classic or value. You know that lean, finely textured beef, the pink slime, can be folded into the plain words ground beef with no separate mention since 2018. You know that a 40-cent patty and $4 beef cannot be the same thing, and you know the fix is free. Turn the box over, count the ingredients, and if the list is longer than beef and salt, walk the 15 feet to the meat counter. The whole model on that shelf was built on one assumption, that you'll read the front and never turn the box over. That single assumption is the only thing holding it up, and you just retired it. If someone you know is firing up the grill this weekend with a box of the number one on this list in their cart, send them this before they do. The front of the box is a painting, the back is the truth. Now you can read both.